Alright everybody, I'm back again for this part 5 of this Batman set review, of which this set releases on Wednesday, so we are almost there. It has been a long time coming for another Dice Masters set to come out, and I am so excited for this one to release. So we last left off looking at this awesome Darkseid super rare card, and we are going to take another look at another super rare card within this video towards the end, but let's look at Parademon. This is the common Parademon. It's a 3-cost villain character with the Swarm ability. That same stat line as the last Parademon that we talked about. So how is the card? Well, it's a 3-cost Swarm character. 3-cost Swarm characters really are generally bad. It has the villain affiliation. The villain affiliation is generally good. And it does have some synergy with the next 2 cards that we're going to look at, but overall this card is just okay. It'll see some play, but if you're not running it with Darkseid, especially the 2 Darkseids that we're talking about coming up, then it'll get cut because 3-cost Swarm is too slow. Definitely better in Draft where forms of ramp on your team are good, so I would give this a 3 in Constructed, only because it'll be handcuffed with the final 2 cards that we'll discuss in a minute, and a 3.5 in Draft. Next up, we have the other 2 Darkseid cards. We have the Common and Uncommon. Looking at the Common, it's a 5-cost Bolt character with that villain affiliation, that same 4-4-1-5-5-3-7-7 stat line. His ability says that while Darkseid is active, whenever you could use a global ability, you may sacrifice a Parademon, and if you do, capture an opposing character die. This version works well with the common Parademon in that you could sacrifice multiple Parademons and capture multiple opposing character dice all in one turn. Plus, you can use this on your opponent's turn to remove attackers. That being said, Parademons are kind of bad, and unless the rare one is a 2-cost, you will be dumping a lot of energy into purchasing Parademons just to use the ability on this card. Still, capturing characters is nothing to scoff at. For examples of its effectiveness, see Imprisoned and its inclusion on like a huge portion of tournament teams. All of that is great, and this version of Darkseid is a 5-cost, and I think this is pretty good and constructed. I'd give this a 4 overall, and as for Draft, I think if you can get a few common Parademons, then this card is also great. I'd give it a 4 as well. The other Darkseid is also a 5-cost Bolt character with that same villain affiliation. This one says while Darkseid is active, whenever you could use a global ability, you may sacrifice a Parademon, and if you do, draw 2 additional dice from your bag during your next clear and draw step. He's also got a global that says pay 1 energy, move a die from your prep to your used, then draw a die from your bag and add it to your prep. So here we have more Parademon sacrifice, this time in the form of ramp if you make the sacrifice. I like that this effect can be triggered on your opponent's turn before they choose to pass their turn or move to the attack step, meaning that you can wait to sacrifice the Parademons after you see their role and purchase habits. Assuming that you can keep 1 common Parademon on the field to trigger the Swarm and sacrifice 1 more, then you could be drawing your entire bag, much like the super rare Darkseid does. It certainly takes more setup than the super rare version, but it does have a strong ability nonetheless, and this global on this card is kind of interesting as well. On the top of my head, I can't think of any characters or actions that can benefit from moving to the used without seeing your field, but you could always move a sidekick in prep to the used in order to try and further mill out your bag and get more valuable characters out. All in all, I think this is a really well-rounded card. Oh, it's also a 5-drop with good stats, so there's also that. This is a 4 in Constructed, and I think a 5 in Draft. And that's a 5 with the caveat of actually being able to draft Parademons. Next up, we're looking at 2 characters that I am actually particularly excited about, both in Constructed and in Draft. I think both will perform very well. We have Dove and we have Hawk. The common Dove here is a 4-cost shield character with that Teen Titans affiliation. She's got an 0-1-1, an 0-1-5, and a 1-2-8 stat line. In addition to that, her ability reads, while Hawk is active, Dove gets +2/+2, and she has a global that says pay a fist, target attacking character die gets -1 attack. So wow, there's a lot to unpack with this card. So in addition to the great stat line, minus that 1-1 side, which is obviously there to try and balance out this card, it has a pretty decent ability that makes this stat line even better. This card provides some really strong possibilities with that flip, attack, and defense global from the world's finest set. And getting 2 10-4s is not really out of reach with this card. After that, all you really need to do is figure out some way to get Overcrush onto those dice, and you've pretty much won the game. Another great feature of this card is that Titans affiliation, and I've kind of felt that these Teen Titans decks have been really close to being powerful. A powerful, maybe high tier 1 deck for a while with cards like Rare Raven and Super Rare Starfire. And maybe with the addition of Dove and Hawk, this will push those decks over the edge. I think you'll see this card played in just about every Teen Titans deck. The only thing that is hurting this card is the need to handcuff it with Hawk in order to get that extra value to get a 4/10 rather than a 2/8, or even just to get a 3/7 instead of a 1/5. In Draft, where stat lines and blocking matters a lot more than in Constructed, I think this card is also great. So overall, I'd give this a 4 in Constructed, and I'd give this a 4 in Draft. So now looking at the common Hawk, he is a 5-cost Fist character, again with that Teen Titans affiliation. He's got a 1/2/2, 1/5/2, and 2/7/4 stat line, and an ability that says while Dove is active, Hawk gets +2/+2. He's also got a global. This one says pay a Fist, target attacking character die, gains +1 attack until the end of the turn, and they put this interesting caveat on the card that says character dice may only be targeted by this global ability once per turn. Here we see an interesting change to the usual Fist buffing global in that you can only use it on a specific die once per turn, but outside of that we again have good stat lines with the possibility of getting a 9/6 for 5 energy. This is one of those brutally powerful card combos in Draft format where if you can get a few dice for each of these cards, then you're likely just to win games with these two. The 5 cost does hamper it a bit, but if you are running SRA and Draft, then you can get there. Though if there is a 4-cost Hawk that has even just a mediocre ability, that might be a bit stronger just because it's lower end, easier to get to. I'd give this a 4 in Constructed and a 4 in Draft as well. Speaking of other cards that have some insane potential, let's take a look at this uncommon Firefly. This is a 3-cost Bolt character with a villain affiliation. He's got a 1/2/2, a 1/3/3, and a 2/4/4 stat line, and his ability says when Firefly is KO'd, deal 2 damage to your opponent if you have any Bolt energy in your reserve pool. Okay, I can sense some fun shenanigans coming from this card. Pair this with momentum and some sort of auto KO and you're off to the races. Outside of that dream combo, you're getting an average stat line for 3 and a character that your opponent is pressured into chump blocking or letting go through because they don't want to take 2 if you're sitting there with a Bolt. This is a really good villain card to combine with all of the other really good villain cards floating around out there and in this set, and it seems clear that WizKid just wants to see villain teams survive the purge of the Justice League set from the modern format. I think this is great in both formats and should be run if you can get it in Draft. I think this is a 5 in Constructed, as I think it deserves to see play on every villain team, and a 5 in Draft as it'll just be mean to have multiple cycling through your bag or your prep area. It reminds me a lot of Cheetah, Cursed Archaeologist from the Justice League set. Here we also have Hawk Girl, the common version. This is a 2-cost mask character with the Justice League affiliation. An 0/2/2, 1/3/3, 1/4/4 stat line for 2 is pretty darn good, and her ability says when Hawk Girl attacks, spin that die up 1 level. This is a nice 2-drop mask character with an above average stat line for 2 that can spin itself up to a 4/4 for 2. Yeah, I'd take that. It isn't the most groundbreaking card in the world, and there isn't exactly a team it fits onto in Constructed outside of like Mask Ring, though I'd imagine you'd kind of want more control pieces for a Mask Ring team to set up for their push for lethal. Still, it's got no downsides. It's good in Draft because stats matter and low drop 4/4s are really good at putting on good pressure. In a lot of ways, this is just a good, solid card. Again, that Justice League affiliation got kind of hurt by the rotation of the Justice League set, but this could just go on a team that you need guaranteed bodies for and something that's pretty decent and strong. So I think it will make some teams. I'd give this a 3 in Constructed, and I'd give this a 4 in Draft. In fact, scratch that, I'd give this a 5 in Draft. If you can get a bunch of 4/4s out for 2, this is worth a 5. You should draft this card. The final card that we're going to look at in this video is this super rare Owlman. He is a 5-cost shield character with the Crime Syndicate affiliation. He's got a nice 1/3/3, 1/4/4, 1/5/4 stat line. Nothing crazy here. Pretty average, maybe even a little below average for a 5-drop. And his ability says that while Owlman is active, your villain character dice get +1/+1. And when he attacks, your villain character dice get an additional +1/+1. So the first question I had when I looked at this card is, how does this compare to the common Owlman that says when fielded, villain character dice you control get +2/+2? And I think the difference here, and well, obviously the difference here, is the while active versus when fielded ability. With that while active ability just constantly being there turn after turn, you have this really nice threat, and I think that's a little more valuable than something that just hits the field and buffs for that singular turn. For example, if we combine this with the 3-cost Firefly that we just looked at a second ago, then you're looking at a possible 2/5/5 every turn just sitting out there in the field, and then when you choose to attack, then you're getting a 6/6 for 3 energy. That is crazy. I think this card is a villain team staple. I think this deserves a 5 in Constructed. And if you see this in draft, obviously you snatch this up, not just because it's got the red stripe, but because it's extremely powerful. This is a 5 in draft as well. So there's another batch of cards from this set. Let me know what you think about these cards in the comments below. Do you like this super rare Owlman? Do you like it better than Darkside? Do you like it less than Darkside? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.